Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Royal Instinct. Today we are going to be watching a video deep diving into why Korean men invented looksmaxxing, the truth about Korea's beauty arms race, why they are encouraging Korean men to apply makeup and indeed maximize their looks. Why are Korean men so obsessed with their beauty? And we'll be looking at Korean beauty standards, which is influencing the world, which is influencing how masculinity is changing, how men are viewing themselves, how they are maximizing their looks in order to compete in the sexual marketplace, in the dating scene, in order for them to get a leg up towards success, for them to be relevant. Because everybody, you probably heard of this guy called Clavicular. He is taking the world by storm. Young men are following him, and he is changing the current meta in how men define their beauty. To maximize their the way that they look. He is known for applying makeup, eyeliner, foundation, in order for him to enhance the way he is perceived, the way he looks, because he believes that it allows him to have the halo effect, so that he is perceived more favorably upon meeting. And once you are seen as somebody who is attractive and you have the so-called halo effect, you are more likely to be seen as charismatic, to be seen as more competent. There is a truth to that. However, the way to do it isn't via looks maxing. It is by maximizing the way people perceive you. And the way that we do it here on this channel is by becoming subject matter experts. It's by becoming points of authority. Okay, if you look at Clavicular, he's actually not that is not the halo effect that is the reason why he is blowing up so much, why he is so popular. The reason why he has so much attention on him now is because he is a subject matter expert within looksmaxxing. Okay, it isn't the looksmaxxing that's getting him the results. It is the fact that he is seen as a point of authority within that niche, within that world, which is what's giving him the eyeballs, which is what's giving him the credibility, which is why he has so many followers. And many young men will fall for the trap and believe, oh, it must be the fucking eyeliner. Okay, it must be the way, because it must be the reason, because he looks so amazing, right? That is not the truth. Okay, there are plenty of examples of relatively you know ugly men, so, if you want to say that, men who aren't traditionally you know um appeal to the traditional beauty standard. Okay, they are very successful. Why? Because they are competent in a certain arena. They are celebrities. They are famous for whatever reason. Okay, they have money, which is always another key indicator of competence. Okay, which is why they are getting the eyeballs. It's not the fact that they are looking like effeminate femboys, right? But let's jump straight in. Let's see the trajectory of Korea and how it became the epicenter of looksmaxxing.
Why are Korean men obsessed with beauty? In South Korea, your face isn't just your face, it's a spec, a product specification. And right now, Korean men are spending billions to upgrade their hardware just to survive the job market. 26 million.
Yeah, what's basically happening is, in Korea, the people who are pushing these K-pop stars, this massive machine behemoth that is pumping out K-pop talents in order for these big companies to profit off of the investment, in order for them to push and peddle and market advertisements, products to the youth of Korea. And now it is not just Korea or Asia, it is all across the globe. I mean, you can just see BTS. It is even they are known all over the world. They are big and famous because of the the aesthetics that they bring, I guess, the curated pop star dream that they are selling to millions of young women. And then men look at that and think, okay, it must be because they're so good looking that they're getting the roles. It is not. It is a very curated way, a very dangerous way of them to to build these new beauty aesthetics, which is leading a whole generation down a dangerous path.
Million men, about 0.5% of the global male population, account for roughly 10% of the world's male skincare market. They're punching 17 times above their weight. This is a 13.
You know, when you are living in a world where many men feel like they cannot compete, okay, they become very, very insecure in, you know, their future prospects, in the way that they, you know, will be perceived by others, in, you know, how they will survive in a ever increasingly more and more popular world, which is, you know, a man really in essence, you know, looks at, okay, what can I do here to gain an advantage, right? Traditionally it used to be, okay, I'm gonna, you know, do well in my career, I'm gonna do well in education so that I can get a great job, so that I can make more money, or, you know, I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna build big muscles and look very, very masculine, in order to stand out in the dating market, in the job market. But now men, you know, really, really looking at the small margins and being like, okay, you know, if I can make my skin look, you know, 10% better, invest in this skincare cream and start a whole skincare routine, right? If I can make my, you know, eyelids, you know, if I can improve the way my eyelids look, if I can improve my jawline, you know, all these things, these marginal gains, they are really, really obsessing over, really, really considering to maximize everything in order for them to be seen as somebody who is of a certain, you know, beauty standard, right? That in order for them to, you know, hopefully be seen more favorable, you know, for them to get better prospects in the life, in the dating life, in the social life, in their careers.
Billion-dollar industry built on four social forces that turn appearance into economic survival. I'm John, and I spent 5 years in South Korea watching this unfold. Male students showed up to my high school classes wearing foundation and eyeliner. At first, I thought it was an anomaly. It wasn't.
I mean, you know, like in the 80s and 90s, when, if may, you know, people who listen to rock, you know, rock stars used to wear eyeliner. I mean, Kiss wore whole, a face full of, you know, like a face mask in essence, right? They used to, you know, put this bright white foundation on and put, you know, black eye patches around them, you know, draw stars around their face. And then, you know, the whole goth movement, again, you know, they try to look at vampires, like demons, like ghosts, and you know, they would, you know, again put, you know, make themselves look more paler, and then, you know, make their eyes more pronounced with eyeliner, and wear makeup, you know, in order to differentiate themselves, you know, um from everybody else. Okay, but it was more of an ideology. It was more to, you know, kind of show to people, okay, this is the type of music that I listen to, this is the type of persona that I am. You know, now they are doing it, everybody's kind of doing it, okay? It's becoming more of a standard norm instead of a niche market, a niche genre for people to participate in.
It was the leading edge of a cultural transformation. This isn't about vanity. It's about historical philosophy, brutal economic pressure, industrial engineering, and government strategy.
Yeah, I mean, the brutal economic pressure, for example, you know, many people are feeling it. We're living through a cost of living crisis. You know, we are living through very, very tough times. We are living in a place where, it is becoming more and more increasingly difficult for you to make money, especially with inflation going up, especially with world events conspiring against you, you know, such as oil prices going out of control because of what is going on in the Middle East, because of the wars that the elites are starting, the decisions that they are making, which have a real impact and real consequences on, the everyday man, a whole generation of people, the young generation, and they are becoming increasingly, more and more frustrated, disenfranchised, in order for them to, you know, live a happy and fulfilled life. Okay, so now they are looking for extreme ways, and this whole looks maxing thing. Okay, you know, it starts off with, you know, let me get a great skincare routine, let me, you know, wear some makeup, some foundation in order to make myself look better, but then it starts bleeding into, you know, where young men are taking a hammer to the face, right? They are literally chipping away, damaging their bone, their cartilage, in order for to become more pronounced, for them to grow more defined jaw lines. You know, young men taking steroids, right? Peptides, dangerous peptides, illegal substances, okay, like meth, for example, to make themselves look more, um, I guess, skinnier, right? To make their face look less puffier. You know, it is heading into a strange, you know, time really for these people, because they are so lost. They are willing to take these extreme measures. You know, what I would like to say is, you know, take the extreme measures in, you know, in terms of risk taking, but not to the extent that it will affect your health, right? Take the risks in, you know, business, take the risk in, you know, making yourself a subject matter expert. Okay, be seen as a point of authority. Okay, that is the best way. That is how we do it on this channel. We become points of authority, subject matter experts, to the point that where people defer to you for questionings, for guidance and answers, so that you are seen as somebody who is important, a leader, which is what the world needs. The world needs more leaders. We are in a leaderless society. Okay, the elites have sold us out. All right, you cannot trust them. You cannot, rely on them to have your best intentions for you. You're right. You need to be the leader for yourself and for the people like you, because if it's not you, who will it be? Right? Who will stand up to fight against the tyranny, to guide, men, women, good people around the world to a better life, a better future? That is what we about. We are collecting 100 kings to come together to build a new society, to build a new empire where we are the ruling elite all over the globe, taking over the game, because the elites cannot be trusted. They do not have the best intentions for us.
In the next few minutes, we're breaking down exactly how Korea created the world's first mass male beauty culture and why it's spreading to your country right now. The twist? The flower boy isn't new. He's the peacetime normal, making a comeback after decades of suppression. And that comeback didn't happen by accident.
Yeah, this is most likely a trend that's going to keep growing and growing and growing, especially when you have people like Clavicular brainwashing people and making them believe that the reason he got so successful is because he was better looking than most people. That is not the reason. It's because he was a freak, right? He is a freak in the sense of what the fuck he is doing is so preposterous. It's so outrageous. It's not normal, right? It's not normal what he's doing. And, it becomes in essence, a freak show that people are watching. Case like, okay, this is this weird guy, right? And then what happens is, off the back of that, because it is so weird, it is so preposterous, you have this moral outcry from, boomers, the mainstream media being like, oh, look what young people are doing now. Okay. And then it becomes this hysteric, witch hunt, in essence, being like, the same way that what we saw in the Manosphere, okay, the Manosphere documentary, many people saw it and were like, oh, I can't believe that this is going on in the world. We need to protect young men. When nobody ever goes too deep to the root cause of all these issues, okay, the reason why, you can have these phenomenons such as the Manosphere, these people, these charlatans come in and, promise a false sense of masculinity to people is because, they are targeting vulnerable men, right? Disenfranchised men, okay? Men who do not have a future in life, in the world, who are unhappy, who are isolated and lonely, right? And when you have a whole generation like that, okay, and you see someone succeeding, seeing someone who is, getting attention from women, living a life that they dream of, okay, and making a lot of money, then these people are going to be like, oh, well, fuck it, right? But the normal societal script doesn't work for me. Let me try fucking smashing my face with a hammer. Okay, let me try and being a prick to women, right? Let me try being misogynist, because apparently that is how you get women, that is how you get girls. When you need to really pull back from the actions and be like, okay, how did these people get famous? Why are they becoming famous? Okay, why are they getting all the attention, right? Is it because of their competence, or is it because they're very good at making people very, very angry, triggering reactions from people, okay, being outrageous, being, kind of at the end of a bell curve, right? Being outside of the norm, where it is very, very extreme. You have these extreme views, which, people want to kind of explore, right? And in front of your laptop, on your computer, on your device, is very safe to explore, something strange like looksmaxxing, right? Something very strange like the manosphere, right? Something very strange like, different ideologies across the world. You can kind of look into it. But what happens is the algorithms kind of, they pick up on what you're searching, and then they just kind of pump feeding you this back to back. And especially if you're watching this on Shorts or TikTok, it kind of starts with brainwashing and seeping into your everyday vocabulary, right? It becomes part of your day, because more and more people are living online. They are being brainwashed by the content that they consume. That is what the tech engineers, that is what the tech CEOs, the people who own these platforms kind of want. They want to brainwash you. They want to brainwash the masses to rot their brains, to weaken their resolve, to make them more vulnerable, so that they do not think for themselves, that they are more inclined to listen to others, right? And they start off listening to these big platforms, but when they are robbing you blind, when they are making you poorer every day, they become the only solution for you, because the governments will be giving you handouts. The governments want you totally reliant on them. They want you living in 15-minute cities, which is outlined by the World Economic Forum Agenda 2030. That is how they want you to live. That is what they want from you. They want to destroy your ability to think for yourself. They want to take away your freedom.
My mom bought me this.
Today, Korean men use an average of 7 cosmetic products regularly. The Korean male grooming market is worth $1.2 billion, growing at 11% annually.
You know, companies want you to be a fucking Looksmaxxer, okay? Like that. Look how much money they're making, right? The Korean male market, grooming market, is worth 1.2 billion. That's just in Korea. Now they want to, you know, extrapolate that across the world. They want you buying their products, okay? They want you insecure. They want you to feel inferior. They want you playing at their game, okay? You need to look a certain way, right? So they don't mind pushing out this content about Looksmaxxing, right? BTS being these, you know, androgynous, perfect, you know, looking anime people, really, right? They want you to feel inferior. They want you to be insecure. They want you to have low self-esteem, so that they can come along and be like, okay, look, you have all these problems, you know, buy this face wash, right? They want you to you know, they want to part you away from your money, right? And they want to make you feel so insecure that the only way that you believe that you can change your life is by paying for their products.
Nearly double the global average share at 31% compared to the typical 15 to 20%. Simply put, it's mainstream. The aesthetic driving all this? The Koreans call it "gotminam," flower boy. The term emerged from the late
A flower boy, right? I mean, I think in, you know, in England, you had, you know, during the, I believe, the Georgian era, you know, the early Victorian era, you had the similar sort of aesthetic. It was called, you know, the dandy, right? A dandy was someone who particularly took, you know, a high interest into their appearance, who really groomed themselves, who was well versed in poetry and singing. You know, somebody who was very, you know, an interesting character, very bemusing character. Okay, they wanted to play this, you know, charade. You know, they wanted to put on a facade of how, you know, of their appearance to stand out in order for them to be seen more favorably by people. Okay, and that dandy culture, right, actually emigrated to the Congo. Okay, and the Congo, in the Congo, you still have this a group of people, a gentleman's club, that meet together, and, you know, they spend all, and they're called the sapirs, sapirs, I believe. They were in a Guinness advert many years ago, which is where I first came across them. Okay, and then, you know, these people are living in a slum, right? They are living like, you know, we're walking around on dirt roads, right, in you know, a very poverty-stricken area, right? But they are dressed, right, you know, absolutely in Gucci suits, you know, Versace, you know, D&G, you name it, Armani. They wear the best suits, they wear the best designer brands, okay, and they're dressed sharp, okay, because it is a status symbol. They are playing a game. They are trying to show you, you know, I am better than you because I dress better than you, I look better than you, I have better style than you, right? That is what they are trying to do. They're trying to compete in this game, where I'm here to tell you, okay, do not compete in that game, okay? Because when you're competing in somebody else's game, when you're living by somebody else's standard, okay, you will never win, okay? Because the goalpost can move, you can be aged out at any time, right? You need to come up with your own niche, your own genre. You need to be in your own lane, okay? You should be the creator of your own thing, of your own economy, of your own society, okay? Where people, you know, bow down to you. This is why we are becoming kings. This is why we are you know, becoming the leaders of new nations. Okay, we are building kingdoms. We are going to be the future rulers of the world. That is what we're doing. We're coming together. We're building subject matter expertise, okay, to the point of where we have so much authority. It is only natural that we are seen as kings, that we are seen as royalty, because we want the best life ever.
late 1990s from girls' comics. Today, it's evolved into chaosangpum, a blend of handsome and pretty. The look is tall, pale skin, pouty lips, sculpted nose bridge, flawless glass skin.
I mean, you know, handsome and pretty. Okay, so, you know, handsome, obviously, you know, the way in the last 20 years, handsome was used by men. because before you could even say a woman looked very handsome, okay, because it just meant that you were good looking, right? But no, handsome is very a masculine way of looking, okay. That man's very handsome, right? But handsome and pretty. So there's also um a feminine quality to the beauty, right? They're kind of trying to make a man look more androgynous, okay. They're trying to make him look like, okay, is he a man, okay, is he a woman, right? Is And it is what this whole society is kind of blending into, okay, is what the whole world kind of wants you to be. It doesn't want you to be just a man and being masculine. It kind of also wants you to be in feminine so that you can go out and buy, an expensive handbag for yourself, right? So they can buy some fucking lipstick, some eyeshadow, some foundation, right? It kind of wants you to be, because women are the best consumers, right, for big companies, okay, because they spend so much money on, uh, items like clothing, handbags, shoes, makeup, right? Like those markets for women are huge. They're big profit making um companies, right? Whereas for men, the options are kind of limited when it comes to looks. Okay, it's more about, like, go to the gym, wear a decent aftershave, right? Dress correctly. Okay. However, the in terms of revenue, that market is kind of rather relatively small. Whereas now they're trying to expand it by changing the beauty standards, right? It's no longer good enough for you to look just masculine. They want you to also look, handsome and pretty, right? And then they encourage you to wear makeup. They encourage you to partake in an industry so that they can profit off of you.
Lean but defined. This
I mean, like these flower boys, these handsome pretty men, the BTS stuff, they kind of look like like they could be lesbians, right? They look like, very masculine women in one way, right? They either look like a very effeminate man or a very masculine woman, right? A tomboy in essence, okay. And that is what they are trying to change the aesthetics to. That is what they want you to be
is
like.
Korea's dominant male beauty standard. But BTS isn't the beginning of the story. To understand why a pretty boy can be a national icon, we need to look at a 2,000-year-old philosophy that says your face is a mirror of your soul.
Yeah, so, and if that is the ideology that you believe, that your face is a mirror of your soul, if you have a very aesthetic face, then you have a very aesthetic soul. Okay. And that is not how it works. Okay. Your facial features are, determined by, your genetics from when, how you were born, who you were born to. Okay. So you can't, if you were born to ugly parents, okay, are you just born with an ugly soul, right? You can't help it where you were born. Okay. So don't allow other people to determine your fate. Okay. Don't put that your future of your life in other people's hands, right? This is why we do not play any more games. I mean, I'm somebody who, I played society's game. Okay. I'm somebody who went to university. I'm somebody who, had a corporate career. I'm somebody who climbed all the way to the top. And then when I got there, you kind of realize, this type of life, you are just a, another cog in the machine. You are just a slave to, these big corporations. And that there's no way for you to escape, that they want to take away your soul, they want to take away your freedom, they want to keep you in a position where they can have power over you. And then I just refuse to play the game. Okay, I'm somebody who walked away from that life, and now I am sharing my philosophy, I'm sharing my knowledge to meet other people who are like-minded. Okay, I'm trying to meet people who believe the same thing as me, who want to make a change to the world, who want to bring about a new future, by walking away and coming up with new solutions, but building a whole new nation. Okay, that is what we are about. We are buying private islands. We are building kingdoms, and because we are the first movers, because we have the balls to do it, because we are the ones who, have enough strength to overcome, any hate from these evil corporations, from these evil elites, because we are the ones facing them and these evil entities. It will be us who are prosperous, and we will win.
And these roots didn't start in Korea. Since the Han Dynasty, China's idea of a real man was about brains over bronze. They valued the scholar, someone who's refined and gentle, more than the warrior. Being handsome wasn't about being tough, it was about looking smart and composed. Late Ming and Cheng.
I mean, what you have to realize is a lot of these dynasties, a lot of these countries and nations were built on brawn, right? You need armies, you need to take over land, you need to expand your territory, okay? And it is done by brute force. It is done by, being more physically dominant, by having a larger army, by being able to beat your enemy to the ground into a pulp, okay, and really decimate your enemy, right? And then what happens is, right, like, like that is like your warrior roots, right? But then as time goes on, when your empire is established, right? You kind of go from this, conquering phase to a enjoyment phase, a middle class phase, right? And many people then, it doesn't be, because when you're trying to run a society and a community, okay, if everybody's a warrior there, okay, it doesn't progress, right? So you need to kind of refine that way, that society, to elevate education, to elevate ideas. And then you have, as you said there, people choose brains over brawn, okay? And you have a whole generation of people who then idolize using their minds, and then using, a big human flaw is that we really pay particular attention to the way things look, the aesthetics of things, okay? And they exploit that by pronouncing that, by making it more prevalent, and going after that in the meta of the society.
Novels idealize beautiful, gentle male protagonists. During the Han Dynasty and the Tang Dynasty, China exported this Confucian system to Korea. Korea took these ideals and perfected them through the Sunbi, a virtuous Confucian scholar. And according to Neo-Confucian philosophy, the body is treated as morally significant. Not vanity, but expression of inner virtue. Your experience.
So you can see that they're building a whole philosophy about aesthetics, about how you look, about your soul being in alignment with your aesthetics, how you are perceived by people, right? If you go for that, if that is what you believe, right, and that if that makes you happy, then go for it, okay? But I'm telling you, the way to beat the system is by not to play society's games, okay? You need to be above it. You need to be outside of the system. You need to come up with your own system. This is why I encourage you to be a king. I'm not looking to, argue with people in the comments. I'm not looking to, recruit people who are part of, oh, this is how I view the world, and you're wrong, and now you're a bad person, and I want to argue with you, okay? I don't give a fuck. I don't give a two shits, okay, right, about what you think, what you want to do with your life, okay? If you want to be a follower of somebody else, if you're happy doing that, great, okay? But don't come running to me when shit hits the fan, okay, and you want to escape, and you realize that you're now trapped in the system, built by people who don't give two shits about you, right? I'm looking for the people who want to escape. I'm looking for the people who want to build and come up with new solutions, a new way of life. People who want to be kings, right? I want to be with fucking leaders. I want to be people who are able to really help the next generation of people, to be fucking heroes, right? I'm sending out a bat signal to people to come along and come and take the call of the adventure that I am offering you. I am looking for people. I'm assembling the Avengers, okay? I'm coming up with the heroes, collecting them all, bringing them together so that we can be the new people, the new army that takes over, so that we can be the kings who take over the globe and become the new ruling class.
Experience reflected your character. The ideal man wasn't a warrior, he was a scholar. While the West prized tough guys, Korea prized smart guys.
I mean, ideas are great, right? Philosophies are great, right? All these things, thinking and overthinking, right? And reading things, that was all great. Education is wonderful, right? But when shit's a fan, when things need to be done, you need to be in your warrior mode, okay? And then what's going to happen to these Looksmaxxers when World War III starts, right? What's going to happen when, if Iran, starts firing off nukes, right, to wherever you live, right? What's going to happen then? Right, like, okay, like there's a missile coming, let me go fucking get my high heels on and let me put my eyeliner on. At that moment you need a leader to come together and save people, okay? And I'm trying to save you. I'm trying to send the message of we're heading towards really, really bad economic times. We're heading towards bad potential a World War III erupting around the globe, where you might not be safe, okay? AI is coming. It's going to disrupt the job market. It will take away a lot of people from their normal routines, from their normal lives, okay? It is going to, make a lot of people very, very poor. And when people become poor, they become very depressed. It's going to ruin a lot of people's life. Loneliness is already an epidemic in the world, okay? And it is impacting the health of people. Many people are suffering. And I'm trying to tell you, look, man, like all these terrible things are happening. Instead of running away, face the problem, become a leader, be counted, right? This is your moment in the TV show, in the film, where you decide to be the main character, right? Don't just be an NPC, go on the hero's journey, take the call, be the hero that you need and that the world needs.
Being handsome meant looking clean, calm, and educated. And we find this Confucian influence across the strait. Japan's Heian period featured male beauty standards nearly identical to female ideals. White powdered skin, small eyes, thin facial hair. Here's what most people miss. Both masculinities, the macho warrior and the refined scholar, have existed throughout East Asian history. They ebb and flow. In wartime, societies amp up warrior masculinity. In peacetime, refined scholarly aesthetics dominate.
Yeah, I mean, right now we are living through a very peaceful time, okay? Even though we have all these travesties happening across the world, you are able to live in your country, in your society, because a lot of people aren't really involved in real life, okay? People are moving more and more online, okay? You can work from home, you can be isolated and educate yourself in your room. You don't really need to go out, okay? You can even talk to your friends online. You can just partake in life via the internet, right? So more and more people are experiencing life in a very, very peaceful moment, okay, in a very peaceful time. But there is great danger ahead. Okay, we are heading towards a time of war, and when that happens, okay, you're going to need the warriors. You're going to need to be able to stand up and face adversity. You're going to need to be able to be calm under those pressures and come up with solutions. And I'm telling you, before, like, you don't want to act last minute as the fucking as the war's about to begin, right? You don't want to be like, all right, look, man, we're gonna have to go into battle. Let's start fucking stretching. Let's start working out now so that we're ready. It's like, nah, let's start getting ready now. Let's escape this fucking the hellhole where you find yourself in. Okay, let's escape the places which will be targeted, where these governments are implementing their agenda 2030. Let's escape and come up with new systems. Let's build new societies, new islands which we are purchasing. Okay, we are the ones who are creating new nations. We are the ones who are building kingdoms.
Ancient Greece and Rome showed the same pattern. Sparta promoted pure warrior masculinity, while Athens prized oratory and intellectual refinement. Korea followed the same cycle. The country's 1960s to 80s military masculinity wasn't some deep-rooted Korean tradition. It was Korea's Sparta moment, a post-Korean War exception that interrupted centuries of scholarly ideals. But this didn't appear overnight. To understand how we got here, we need to trace three distinct eras of Korean masculinity. And in less than a generation, Korea went from valuing the book to valuing the boot. Between the 60s and 80s was the rough masculine era. Park Chung-hee's military coup in 1961 militarized.
Yeah, I mean, like a war started, there was a military coup in Korea, and then they needed more men in the army. They needed more people to come in and, take control via brute force, right? And, when that happens, where does your soft feminine, eyeliner, where does that all go, right? Your ideals about how aesthetics, right, go out the window when you really need someone to take control, when you need to put things into action, when you need to invade and face the enemy. What happens then? Okay, and this is what many people are missing. This is what these looksmaxxers are forgetting. Okay, you need to be ready and to save your people, right? Which is why I encourage you to become a subject matter expert, so that you can propel yourself to a point of authority, so that you can be seen as a somebody who is of importance, a leader, which is what the world needs, because the world is currently lost.
Korean life. Mandatory conscription created a proverb: you become a man once you go to the military. If you want to see what this looked like, watch Old Boy from 2003. Choi Min-sik's character embodied that rough, violent, macho masculinity that defined this era. From the 90s to the 2000s was a pivot where four changes happened at the same time. Democratization in 1987 ended military regimes. The 1997 Asian financial crisis shattered the traditional breadwinner role. Japan's culture ban was lifted in 1998, and Bishonen manga aesthetic.
So when you have all these things happening at the same time, when you have the traditional role of a man being lost, when men aren't the main breadwinner anymore, because you have females joining the labor force, when you have the labor force expand, so wages naturally fall because you have more labor supply, right? It's just basic economics. When you have that moment, the men in that society kind of lose their relevance. Okay, and when men lose their relevance, they need something to fill that void. Okay, if it's not coming from their career, their ability to be breadwinners, to make money, they will start playing a status game in order for them to propel themselves in society so that they become more relevant. And this is what is leading to a whole generation of men becoming looksmaxxers.
Spread, depicting sweet, sincere, passionate men. Then came the K-drama Winter Sonata in 2002. Hae-young-jun played a gentle, impeccably groomed intellectual. The show created a pan-Asian soft masculinity trend with a nearly $3 billion economic impact.
Look, there's nothing wrong with being soft, right? Or being gentle with people, right? Like, I mean, even if you're a man, even if you're a very masculine man, right? If you're a dangerous man, if you know how to fight, okay, let's say you do MMA, right? When you're around a fucking toddler, when you're around a child, are you going to be rough, or you can be very, very nice to and gentle with that person, with that child, right? You need to be able to do everything. Okay, you need to be able to control your emotions. You need to be in every lane. Okay, it's not just good. Okay, I'm just a gentle person, let me just hang around around the same types of people. Okay, you need to be able to transfer your ability to lead in any scenario. Okay, you can lead and be gentle in your leadership, right? You can be, okay, but you also need to be decisive. You need to take control. You need to be relevant, right? You need to be somebody who is able to gather momentum in order for people to take action, right? You need to help people because many people are so lost, many people are lonely, many people are distracted, okay, by their devices, by the the mixed messaging that is being sent out across the globe. Okay, you need to help people wake up. You need to, and the best way to do it is by you becoming somebody who is very relevant, who is seen as a point of authority. Okay, because that is what people respond to. Be relevant, be a leader, because you need to be the one who changes the trajectory of the world.
From the 2010s to now, K-pop going global accelerated everything. Korean men now spend 4 times more capita on skincare than any other country. Netflix and YouTube became major distribution channels, with Netflix investing in 2023 $2.5 billion for over 4 years of Korean content. Beyond K-dramas, manhwa webtoon and Korean anime-style content have begun capturing market share from traditional Japanese manga and anime, particularly among younger Asian audiences. Every K-drama, every idol appearance, every vibe.
And the pipeline for all this is kind of like, like you start off by showing K-pop or these beauty aesthetics within the manga, the Korean manga scene, right? And when you're a child, like I'm somebody who watched Dragon Ball Z when I was a child, okay, like that is a Japanese manga, and it was based off of the philosophy behind Dragon Ball Z is work hard to prepare yourself for the fight, partake in the fight, build yourself up to be better, okay, and draw strength from your ability to make the right moral judgments, okay, be a good person, right? And Goku is the embodiment of that, okay, but it was a very masculine character. It was a very okay, if I improve myself, if I level up, right, I'll become stronger and I'll be able to succeed. Okay, that is what the basic concept of the whole thing is, right? But he's a good person. He makes the right decisions, okay, for the greater good of society, of the greater people of Earth. He looks after his friends, okay. He is a great role model, okay. But then you have these newer type mangas coming out where they are more delving into more emotional messages, I guess, which is great, right? But also it's also pushing this male beauty standard onto people, and then as they grow up, when they go from mangas to K-pop stars, and then they grow up into the real world and partake in the real world, they end up following those same ideals. Okay, that is why looksmaxxing is so prevalent in Korean society.
Viral skincare routine video, they all feed the same ecosystem. The flower boy going global. But there's something we haven't talked about yet. While the government tried to stop appearance-based hiring, they left one massive loophole open, and it actually made the problem worse. We'll get to that in a minute. The critical shift happened in 1997. That's when the Asian financial crisis hit. And looking like a refined scholar stopped being about virtue and started being about survival.
That's what I mean. So when there is a time of crisis, like a financial crisis, right? It's not about, being having the moral ground. It's not about, being having the ability to outwit someone, right? The real test comes, how do you deal with, a time of crisis, right? And then that's when you need to survive. That is when you need to show leadership in order to lead people to a better life, to a better future. Okay, protect yourself, right? That is why you need to build a moat around you. Okay, you need to build a kingdom where it has a strong economy, okay, where you are generating a lot of money, a lot of revenue within your economy, um via the people living in your economy, via the people living within your kingdom, trading with each other, building your ability to extract value from the world, okay, so that you can isolate yourself with money and problems, with issues that the world are facing, right? And that is when you need real strong characters, okay, and that is what the world lacks right now. This is why you need to decide whether you want to be somebody who does something about the coming issues, or are you just going to be there sitting back, watching the world go by and then moaning about the state of your life.
That 1997 crisis restructured the entire economy and masculinity along with it. Lifetime employment vanished, competition intensified. Your appearance wasn't just about virtue anymore, it was your competitive edge. And quick plug, if you enjoy these sorts of Asian cultural deep dives, don't forget to sub. Since the late 80s, Korea transitioned from an agriculture and manufacturing labor-based economy to a knowledge-based economy. White-collar workers.
See, and the thing is, when it is a very labor heavy economy, like farming, like factory work, okay, it's typically just men do it, okay. But when it goes to a knowledge based, service based industry economy, right, women can partake, which is when the labor market, becomes larger, is when the labor market, really doubles in size in some cases. Okay, and then when it doubles in size, the wages go down. Okay, when wages go down, your ability to own a salary and for you to be the main breadwinner and for you to attract a mate becomes more difficult, which is why we are in this current scenario.
Visibly earned more than blue-collar workers. Visual presentation became class signaling. You can't bother looking good working in a factory, but you can definitely look good.
So by looking good, by looking immaculate, okay, you are signaling to the world that you are, somebody who is earning a lot of money, okay. And at the end of the day, that is the underlying narrative about everything that you are signaling, okay. If you're somebody who's witty and funny, it means that you must have a lot of money because you're well educated, okay. If you're somebody who is able to live a very content life, a very happy life, because you have no problems in your life, it means you must have a lot of money because you can throw a lot of money at any issues that come alongside your way, okay. If you're wearing nice clothes, if you are the way that you're appearing, it means that you can pay for all those things, which is what women find very attractive because it signals security, it signals a more prosperous future with you than any other man, which is why the underlying current of everything, the messaging behind everything, is that you are somebody who has wealth, that you have access to a lot of money, access to a lot of resources.
As a salaryman. This is why appearance stopped being about cultural virtue and became pure economic calculation. In 2016, over 9 out of 10 Korean companies required photos on job applications, and they asked a whole bunch of personal questions that'll incur HR's wrath in the West. President Moon proposed banning photos from public sector applications in 2017. This led to the Blind Hiring Act of 2019, which still allowed photos, but banned requesting non-job related information, including about physical appearance, and this is for large employers with 30+ employees. Problem solved? Not quite. Job seeker photo studios are still thriving. Imagine you're a job seeker in Seoul. You walk into Woori Tongnae, a studio that's been operating since the 1950s. You don't just get a passport photo, you get a rental suit off the rack. A makeup.
So they are curating this fake persona, this fake image that they're trying to give you, so that you look higher status, more wealthier, more successful than you are actually are. Okay, so again, you are playing somebody else's game. You are giving the world a different version of who you are than what you actually truly are underneath, right? Which is why your self-esteem will suffer. You're not being authentic to yourself, you're not being real, okay. And you will face many this can lead to a scenario where you feel like a fraud, okay, like you feel like that you are um you know basically going against your own spirit, your own soul, right? And many people, um, it leads to an existential crisis. It leads to many people feeling disillusioned, and many people end up in depression because of it. Okay, this is why I tell you to go into your field of expertise, be in your life purpose, follow your interests. Okay, become a subject matter expert, become somebody who is seen and relevant for the things that you believe, the things that you want to explore. Okay, be in your life purpose, because it leads to you being your true authentic self. And when you are exploring that avenue of yourself, when you are in your lane, your soul is much more free. Okay, your brain is in 100% in harmony with your life that you are living, and you're able to make new connections. You're able to come up with new ideas, new information, by connecting dots that and nobody else can see. Okay, which is why you will be seen as a point of authority. This is how you become somebody who is relevant. This is how you beat any Looksmaxxer. This is how you beat somebody like Clavicular. Okay, this is how you beat all these people who are going down the wrong avenue. Okay, build your kingdom, be seen as a king, and live a life that you were born to live.
Artists adjust your face, multiple backgrounds, same-day digital editing that smooths your skin and sharpens your jawline. You walk out with a version of yourself that's been professionally optimized for hiring algorithms and HR managers. The cost? 5만 원 to 7만 원 for the basic shot. That's $30 to $50. Add hair and makeup? That's another 5만 원. Their marketing pitch is this: having your job application photo taken here increases your chances of getting hired. The problem is there's still a legal loophole. ID style photos are still perfectly legal for identification purposes. About 4 out of 5 Korean job seekers believe looks affect employment, and 2 out of 5 experience appearance-based.
So, I mean, imagine that. I mean, imagine thinking like, I can't go for this job because I'm not good looking enough, right? Like, not only are you now having to compete on competency about, how smart you are, how, your problem solving skills, okay, your ability to handle pressure, right? Now you also need to do all those things packaged up in a very, very pretty aesthetic. Okay. It is becoming ridiculous what these companies want, you know, how you need to be in order for you to just get a fucking job. Okay. And then with AI coming, right? AI ain't pretty. AI is going to take over your job. AI is going to replace you. Okay. And AI is not doing anything about its looks. Okay. It is all about productivity. It's all about what your output is, right? And everybody's going to face challenges with AI when it comes and replaces many, many people, when it makes many, many people unemployed, right? It's going to change the way that the job market is functioning. This is why, in order to protect yourself, okay, be somebody who is relevant and seen as a subject matter expert, okay, be a source of knowledge for humans. Okay, because many humans still want to interact with real people. They want to follow a leader, somebody who is very competent. This is why you need to be in life purpose, which is what we help each other with on this channel. This is what we do. We uncover your life purpose. We put you in a place of on the track to become a subject matter expert. We ensure that you are somebody who is removed from any self-doubt, removed from any fear, any negative thoughts that you might have which are holding you back. Where we put you in a place where you are able to express 100% of your personality, express all your charisma, so that you can blast it onto the world, so that you can be seen for the true authentic self that you really are. Okay, and that is why we will win. This is why we are bound for glory. We will become the next ruling class of the world.
Discrimination when applying for jobs. The human cost is severe. A study tracking your
and another thing is what she just said there about taking the mask off. Okay, many people in Korea are damaged in terms of they are depressed, right? They are really ending their lives due to the amount of stress that they face within their jobs because they're overworked, right? So you do all this beautification in order for you to get a real good job, okay, but then you're worked like like a slave. Okay, you're overworked. You're not encouraged or validated for your work or rewarded. Okay, you're not praised for what you're doing. Nobody respects you, in essence. Okay, so many people are disillusioned with their lives. Okay, and they end up ending their lives. Okay, and especially in a global dating crisis, which is absolutely out of control in Korea. Okay, in Korea, you really have this battle between men and women where women see men as the misogynist, the perpetrators of patriarchy, and choosing to not date men anymore, choosing to not have children. Okay, so you have this you know ideological gender war happening. At the same time, men are becoming the new women, right, where they are also competing on looks, where they're also trying to beautify themselves. And it is leading Korea to a dangerous territory, right? So you really have to choose and understand what is happening. This is why, I'm telling you not to compete, okay? Create your own competition, be the leader of the competition, be the person who sets the standard.
Nearly 3,000 young Koreans found that those experiencing repeated appearance discrimination had 3.7 times higher odds of poor health outcomes. The phrase lookism, 외모지상주의, in Korean literally translates to looks over everything.
Yeah, and it leads to a very toxic culture. It leads to a very dark place in humans. Okay, and people already have a mental health crisis in the world. Okay, people suffer in silence. Right, they're already lonely, overworked. Right, not respected, not loved. Okay, people are more and more isolated, and it is going to turn ugly.
If millions of men suddenly need to upgrade their appearance to get a job, you don't just have a trend, you have a massive market opportunity. And Korea built 3 specific engines to monetize that desperation. The Korean beauty industry is like a giant machine with 3 main engines that all power each other. The first engine is the K-pop machine, which effectively turns humans into products. Debuting a single K-pop group in 2025 costs upward of 7.5 million before they even perform. That investment doesn't just buy a polished performer, often it buys something much darker. We'll see the receipt for
What they're trying to do is that they're trying to buy cool. They're trying to manufacture cool. Okay, they're trying to set the agenda of what the next generation follows. They're trying to manufacture cultural relevancy. Okay, it is not authentic. It is mass produced. It is borrowed. Really, I mean, even though they are Korean, the way that they're dancing, the way that they're acting, this is how American pop groups act. Okay, which is, I mean, in essence, they stole it from hip hop. They stole it from rappers. Okay, the way that they're behaving. That is the there's nothing authentically Korean about it, apart from the fact that those people performing those things have Korean genetics, right? It is all fake. It is not true. Okay, don't buy into the hype. Okay, set your own standards so that you don't fall victim to these people.
that in a moment. These trainees spend anywhere from 2 to 10 years being physically and professionally transformed. When a company decides a trainee needs surgery, the company pays for it as an investment. Scouts don't just look for talent. An attractive person is a basic requirement. And like any product line, the industry engineered specific models to sell to different market segments. You have the flower boys, that's softer, aesthetic, with sleek physiques and charming personas. Then you have the beast idols, the rugged, traditionally masculine builds with intense makeup and powerful bad boy vibes. Within those categories, they've engineered 5 specific persona archetypes to capture every possible fan obsession. Every aesthetic choice is a calculation. The $7.5 million doesn't just manufacture performers, it often manufactures a psychologically fractured human being. BTS's Suga spoke openly about depression and OCD. His alter ego Agaste's lyric says, "On the other side of the famous idol rapper stands my weak self. It's a bit dangerous." Psychologist Ji-hyung Kim puts it bluntly, in most entertainment agencies, idols are treated more as commercial tools rather than humans.
Yeah, so they are treated as slaves. They are dehumanized. They are just seen as an asset for these corporations, for these agencies to extract value out of them in order to generate a profit. Okay, so they are sold a lie of all these, their hopes and dreams being fulfilled in order, but in reality, many of these people become depressed because they are not in their life purpose. Okay, they are not expressing themselves how they truly want to express themselves. Okay, they know that they are dancing to somebody else's tune. So to save yourself, I am encouraging you to be the master of your own universe, be the master of your own kingdom. Okay, be a king. Okay, crown yourself a king, remove the self-doubt, allow yourself to be fully expressed in your life purpose. But let's jump ahead. I wanted to show you the army part of this video, which I thought was very, very interesting. Here we go. I think there's this bit here. Okay.
To the United States specifically, surpassing France. The United States now accounts for 55% of K-Beauty's overseas online sales. At Ulta Beauty, the largest cosmetics retailer in the US,
So it is big business, okay? Like these K-pop beauty products that they are selling is generating a lot of profit all across the globe, okay? Internationally, 55% of their sales come from the US alone.
Korean skincare sales jumped 38% in a single quarter, making it the fastest growing segment in the store.
Yeah, so and if you have that much money on the table, if that is how much profit and revenue that these companies can generate, of course they're going to double down on it. Okay, that is the plan for Looksmaxxing to take
But
over
what
the
does this
world.
actually look like on the ground? Beyond the billion-dollar, and you'll get a dismissive response. Ask his 25-year-old son, and he'll pull 3 products from his bag without hesitation. The numbers tell the same story. About 1 in 5 of Korean men in their 20s now use makeup regularly, including foundation and eyeliner.
1 in 5. Okay, so like kids used to get bullied for maybe they're being a little bit fat, maybe they're for them to being not smart or unpopular for whatever reason. But now they're also, if you're not wearing makeup, you're going to start getting bullied. Like it is out of control. Okay.
For them, appearance is about competence and professional survival. For younger men, however, it's increasingly about self-expression and identity. Same behavior, completely different motivations. And the contradiction is stark. Mandatory military service is supposed to forge real men through traditional masculinity. 2 years of discipline, hierarchy, and physical training. And yet, 7 of 10 servicemen use cosmetics. While most armies are
So the army is breeding these Looksmaxxers, okay? Not only are they putting them into a position where they are physically fit, they are also encouraging them to look aesthetically pleasing. What use has aesthetics got during a battle, okay? Are they willing to like imagine like Korea goes to war, okay? Like with China, okay? And then they start, making sure that they look really well good, okay? They put their eyeliner makeup on and then they start blowing kisses across the field in order to seduce the opposition, in order for them to is that where it's come down to? Okay, instead of being able to fight somebody to protect your country, you're now going to offer your asshole, so so that you are like literally like trying to fuck them to death. Is that what the Korean army has got in store for
teaching
you?
soldiers how to clean a rifle, the Korean military is inadvertently teaching them how to clean their pores.
Like okay, like yeah, instead of cleaning your weaponry, instead of cleaning your boots, instead of cleaning your rifle, instead like let's get those pores cleaned up, okay? Because that is how you win a war, okay? You need to, in essence, that they're going to basically put on a fucking wig, they're going to bend over, to the opposition, and they're going to offer their assholes. Is breeding an army of femboys, right? Like that is what they're doing. If that the army is actively encouraging these people, it is out of control.
Cosmetics brand Tony Moly saw this paradox and leaned into it. They launched Camel Cream, marketed directly to soldiers.
So yeah, if you're going to wear um camouflage, you might as well look fucking pretty, okay? In case you do get found out and then you need to suck someone's fucking dick, okay? Make sure you are attractive so that you do not lose the war.
Entrepreneur Dino Ha put it this way: all guys who went through the military, you almost become a semi-expert in beauty.
Like, I mean, this is a great example to you, that you can fucking start a business in anything. Like, who would have thought, okay, that you need to have a degree in applying makeup for you to join the fucking army, okay? And then, if you are part of the army, you might as well buy the army approved makeup, right? You can start a business in anything if you know how to sell and product something, okay? So whatever your life purpose is, whatever thing in life that you find interesting, you can start a fucking channel about it. You can start a following about it. You can become a subject matter expert. Okay, become somebody who is seen as an expert, become a point of authority, because you can do anything in life. You can do whatever you want. Okay, you are the decider, you are the person who is in charge of your life. Okay, don't allow other people to dictate and make you play their game. Okay, play your own game, be the creator, not the participator.
The institution designed to reinforce traditional masculinity has become a beauty school. And you see this paradox in stars like Song Joong-ki.
So instead of, learning war tactics, being in peak physical condition, it is all about how well and quickly you can clean your pores, how well you can apply your makeup and eyeliner. It is an absolute joke. It is an absolute disgrace.
Babyface, but he can fight. He's well known from hits like Vincenzo and Descendants of the Sun. He served his mandatory military service, maintains a soft flower boy aesthetic, and plays action roles with ease.
So you need to be like John Wick, an absolute beast of a man, but look as pretty as a fucking, as pretty as, I don't know, Megan Fox. Like, is that what we're going for now? Okay, you need to not only be able to be a man that women want to fuck, you also need to be the woman that gets fucked by them. It's like, it's absolutely a fucking joke. Okay,
A distinctly Korean form of masculine competition, where beauty becomes another battlefield for status and dominance. And Korea is a canary in a coal mine for global change. The forces driving this transformation are already on your pocket, on your feed, with filters reshaping what you think success looks like.
Yeah, and that's important. Okay, they are dictating what success looks like. Okay, they are telling you what the standard is, and you have to be the one who meets it. Okay, I am here to tell you and to get you to wake up to, instead of following people, dictate what the terms are. Live your life how you want to live. Okay, nobody can tell you what to do. Nobody can tell a king how to live. This is why you need to be seen, to live your life purpose. Okay, be in your lane. You look, you're either gonna live a shit life, okay, and then you die. Right, so you might as well go all out to fulfill your dreams, to be in your life purpose, okay, to be in your lane that you were meant to be in the lane that you were born to live. Okay, this is why I encourage you to be a subject matter expert. Okay, be an expert, be seen as a point of authority. Okay, and allow people to see you as a leader, which is what the world needs. Okay, we need more leaders, we need more people in charge, because the current elites, the current people, the governments, the presidents of the world, they are incompetent. Okay, they are leading you down the path of of war, of further crises, coming, financial crises, wars, right? Spiritual crises, right? Many people are depressed, many people are lonely. Okay, it is a dark time that we are headed into, which is why I am sending out a signal to you to reach out to me, to join me on a quest to build a new world, a better future for the people. For us to join together, to join the Amicis. Okay, join the Royal Alliance of Kings that I'm forming, become a king, build your kingdom, be seen as a point of authority, and live a great and prosperous life by allowing people to follow you, for you to save them, because that is what we need. We need more heroes. We don't need more effeminate femboys putting on makeup, and clearing their pores. Okay, but that is it for today. Thank you very much, and I will see you tomorrow.